Hello, all you reinventors. This is Lesley Jane Seymour, and I am the founder of this podcast and of CoveyClub.com, where you should mosey on over for more reinvention info and all kinds of downloads and guides and whatever it is you might need, essays, help of any sort. We also have our new marketplace where you can find coaches and retreat centers and people to help you with your finances, all who are members of Covey Club. So these are women who are highly accomplished, but want to help other women do as well as they have and are in the process of reinventing themselves. So today I have for you one of those great things that I know you love. We are all organizing fanatics. There is research that shows that a more organized environment is a more productive one. It is a more calming one. It lets you focus. It lets you dream and create better. But Lisa is not talking about decluttering as much as she's talking about organizational systems in the home, which is really kind of fascinating. I didn't really understand the difference until we had this conversation, which I think you're going to find very interesting. Anyway, let me tell you about Lisa Woodruff. She's a productivity specialist, home organization expert, and founder and CEO of Organize 365. She's the host of the top-rated Organize 365 podcast, where she shares strategies for reducing overwhelming thoughts, clearing mental clutter, and living a productive and organized life. Lisa has authored several Amazon best-selling books and has been featured in the New York Times, Fast Company, U.S. News and World Report, Women's World, Ladies' Home Journal, and more. And she also has her own reinvention story, and I think that you'll relate to that as well, especially those of you who are trying to figure out what is next for you. And maybe it comes out of something that you just like to do as a hobby. So here is the wonderful Lisa Woodruff. So Lisa, welcome to the podcast. Sorry it took me so long to get going this morning. It's been one of those disorganized days. How perfect that I'm talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your own personal reinvention, how you got into the organizing business, and then we're going to talk about how organizing has changed and what people can do to sort of reinvent their approach to organizing. So talk a little bit, where'd you grow up? Where are you from? What did you start out doing? And how did you get into organizing?
Sure. So I grew up in the Akron, Cleveland, Ohio area, and I live in Cincinnati now. I went to Miami University, and that's where I met my husband. I got an MRS degree, and now I live in Cincinnati, and I have for the last 30 years. I was one of those born organized kids. Like my mom could take me to the clothing store and shop, and I would just organize buttons on the floor for like an hour. So she loved that because she loved to shop. And then I was a babysitter, and I was a babysitter for a decade. Like I took my job very seriously.
Did you go in and organize people's houses?
I did.
Oh
So
my
then I
God.
started organizing the houses.
Were you like the most popular babysitter in the world?
Oh my gosh. The first time I did it, I was like, oh, I'll clean up the kids, cabinet in the kitchen. And these parents stayed out until 1 or 2 a.m. and the kids went to bed at like 9, and I was bored, and I organized the whole kitchen. And then I was mortified because like I had decluttered stuff and they had not asked me to. And I was like 14. And
hilarious.
Dr. and Mrs. Stover, I'm so sorry, but I completely organized your kitchen and everything expired is gone. And she was like, great. Next time, do the laundry room. And I was like,
oh my God. So it's a two for, I hope they paid you well for this.
Oh, I would have done it for free. That's the thing. When you do what you're uniquely created to do, you would do it for free.
I used to tell my boss that was the stupidest thing I ever said to a woman who was a famous pots cutter. I said I would do this job for free. Yeah, never ever say. Everybody listening, don't tell your boss that ever. No, even if it's true, don't say it. So yeah, okay. So the organized babysitter. Okay.
Organized babysitter, got a teaching degree, taught for a few years, finally was blessed with adoption, and we were able to grow our family. I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, which is all I ever wanted to be in my life. And here's the thing. Then I was about to turn 40. And, I think most of us think about our lives until we're 40. And then I don't know, 40 is like dinosaur age. So you must be
You're
dead at
dead.
that age.
Right. You're
Yeah.
dead.
We have
There's
it's
no,
like a
I
cliff.
know. It's a cliff. Yes. And you
No,
could
no
become
thought.
invisible. Well, you become invisible.
Yes.
Nobody's thought about it
Yes.
beyond there. We talk about that a lot at Covey Club. Yes.
Yes.
I hear you.
So in my 30s, my parents got divorced. My father got sick. I was power of healthcare. Then we were power of attorney. And then my sister and I were the executor of the estate. At 37, I've got divorced parents, a father who's passed. My kids were really struggling in a lot of different ways. And I talk about 33 to 40 being my 7-year slide into the pit of despair. So I'm about to be
Oh,
40. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Now they're middle school age kids. Like I have
right.
no
Right.
vision for the rest of my
Right.
life.
Right. Right.
I was teaching and my kids needed me at home. And the only thing I was succeeding at was teaching. And my headmaster came in and told me that I wasn't a very good teacher. And I was 39. So I knew she was wrong because I was a really good teacher.
Jeez. Oh my
And I was like,
God.
if you're saying this is the only thing I'm putting all of my effort into is this job, and you're telling me you don't think I'm good at this, well, I know I'm not being a good wife, homemaker, mother. Like, I already know I'm failing in all that. I don't want to look back at 80 and be like, oh, well, I was a mediocre teacher and I let everything else go. So I quit my job. So now
Good for
I'm
you,
40, turning
girlfriend.
40. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, because of our family situation, I needed flexible work and I needed an unlimited income potential. I'd been in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of direct sales companies. I'd been a leader in a lot of direct sales companies, which is
Mm.
not easy to do. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at everything I'd done from birth until 40, and every single job I ever had, I was successful at it or I got the job because I was organized or I helped organize someone. So I started a blog called Organize 365, had no idea how I would make money, but went into business for myself. And it was 3 months later that I found out I was an in-home professional organizer. I'd actually been organizing in people's homes for decades, but I didn't know that's what it was called.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So, how did you decide, like, how to, was it go beyond a blog or how did you grow? Because grow
So
is the hardest part. Sometimes
it
it's
is.
finding the thing and then how do you grow it, right?
Yeah, so I made the decision at 40 that this was going to be my forever career. And I was just going to pivot and iterate until it was successful because I was done switching jobs. Like in 2011, the year prior, I had 7 Schedule Cs on my tax return because I'd made money in 7 different independent ways, like which is crazy.
Not as
So,
a consultant.
well, I was teaching, I was tutoring, I was cleaning houses, I was in multiple
Wow.
direct sales companies. Like
Okay.
they all had different 1099s. So they're
Okay.
all different Schedule Cs. So I pulled it all under Organized 365. And I've been in business now 13 years,
Holy
very
moly.
profitable. Yeah, we're the
Wow.
30th largest female owned business in Cincinnati. So that's
Holy
fun.
moly. That's awesome.
Thanks. And I've applied a lot of my teaching principles to business. And what I found is everything's like a 3-year cycle. So the job that I quit was Montessori, and Montessori has like a 3-year cycle of learning, and then you go to the next. So my first 3 years in business, I was just doing in-home organizing and blogging. The
Right.
second 3 years, I started my podcast. I realized that I was teaching people how to get organized. And if I could figure out how to teach that online, that would unlock unlimited income for me, but also a much wider swath of people being able to learn how to get organized because professional organization is super, super expensive.
Right.
And then the
Correct.
next 3 years in business, I patented and manufactured office supplies. And the last 3 to 4 years in business, we have a certification program and we're just amplifying and growing that brand under education. And I started my PhD 2 years ago. So I'm 2 years into a 3-year cycle of becoming a voice in academia around this idea of housework and home organization. There's a lot of research on housework. None of it is comparable, by the way, and almost no research at all on home organization, operational systems at home, running your house like a business.
Wow. Fascinating. Incredible. So now you teach people how to get into the organizing business. You certify them or what do you do?
I do have a certification program, but more we just teach people how to get organized. And here's the thing about reinvention, and we were going to
Mm-hmm.
talk about organizing.
Mm-hmm.
As you reinvent yourself every, 7 to 10 years, you actually need different organizing. So I found that people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s were disorganized because they were implementing ideas and strategies that worked in their 20s and
Oh,
30s.
that makes sense.
And each decade needs different organization principles in the same exact kind of house. So the podcast just celebrated 10 years, the 10-year anniversary. And so I just talk about, how should your house function in the phase of life that you're in so that you can create operational systems and it runs on autopilot until the next transition. And as you go through your transitions, often when you're resetting your house, reestablishing these organization systems, it's a physical way of moving from one phase to the next as you're reinventing your next phase.
So let's talk a little bit about what the difference is in your 30s and 40s and then 50s would be interesting to our crowd. What are the differences in how the household is organized? I mean, I guess in your 30s, most likely you're organizing your house around other people, right?
Yes. So as I organized people from 8 to 80, I kind of took some, non-scientific data and I wrote a self-published book called The Mindset of Organization. And I realized there were these 4 20-year cycles, 0 to 20, 21 to like 39, 40 to 55, and 55 plus. And I labeled them based on how you use your house. So 0 to 21 is childhood. 21 to 39 is accumulation. So if you remember
Oh,
living in your childhood
yes.
home,
Right.
and you go to hang a picture, you don't have a hammer or nails. Like
Right.
the answer to every problem in your 20s is to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, like, because you don't own everything. But then as soon as you turn 40, and it's like starts at 37, but by 40, you're like, feel like you're under a landfill. You live in a landfill and you're like, you're used to solving every problem by going to a store. And the answer now is to stop going to the store because you're in survival. So 40 to 55 is survival. And it is this transition, like you said, from whatever choices you made in your 20s and 30s into whatever you're going to do in your 50s and 60s, that collides in your 40s. So maybe you got a mortgage, a marriage, kids, a certain profession. And you do that for, 7 to 15 years. And then as you hit 40, you're like, do I want to do this till I'm 80? Because apparently life does go on at 41 and on. Like, so do I want to have the same decisions? Do I want to live in the same kind of house? All of those things. And that is a time where you actually declutter. But the organizing part is you actually buy higher quality. So in your 40s,
Mm,
you'll declutter things that you accumulated from thrift shops or whatever, and you'll like
mm,
buy your first dining room table, or you
mm,
will change out your wardrobe and you'll start buying more, on sales or even paying full price for clothing when you used to get it like a resale shop or gifts or
mhm,
things like that. You kind of decide who you are going to be in your 40s.
mm.
And then 55 plus is legacy and downsizing. So that's when you really are like, okay, I've traded out for some of these things that more match my aesthetic and my socioeconomic status now. And I'm going to refine even further into what I want to take into the future and what my next act is going to be. And what's my legacy really going to be in every area, in my family, in my profession, in everything. And does my household support that?
And can you talk a little bit about that? Because we do talk about downsizing. It's interesting. I mean, I remember getting to that point thinking like, I don't want to accumulate anymore. And I do remember that feeling of I have to accumulate this. And I look back and I'm like, because I also was in a business that was very much about accumulation and buying and keeping up. And I was in the magazine business and fashion. And now I look at it and I'm like, what were we doing? I mean, it really was a thing. And now I'm kind of beyond that where I could continue to do that, but I don't want to. I have no interest.
Yeah, so part of it is your age, and part of it is just there is a cycle of accumulation. It's an 80-year cycle.
Mm.
There are cycles for everything. So the height of materialism was the 80s. Think baby boomers. Think yuppies and
Oh,
all the collections that we had,
interesting.
and everything was gold plated. Like think Donald Trump in the 80s. Like
Yes,
that was the
yes,
epitome of the 80s. And
right.
then you got to the epitome of minimalism and decluttering in 2020. And it was literally 2019. I was thinking to myself, like, I've read this in the book Generations, and I know that we're going to end this cycle of minimalism. You remember the tiny houses that people were moving
Yes,
into?
yes, and I remember the 7 day, the 7
Yes.
clothes for
Yes, like 21
7
pieces of clothing or
for
whatever.
for a year, yeah.
Yes, the capsule wardrobes. And I knew because of what I had read that we were moving back towards maximalism. But I was like, how in the world is this going to shift? And then the
Right.
pandemic happened. And I was like, that's it. No one will ever be a true minimalist again because no one will let their toilet paper get that low. Like, we're all like the Great Depression people now. Like, you remember the Great Depression era, they wouldn't let go of the tinfoil because they lived through the Great Depression. We've lived through COVID. So we're always going to have a little bit of extra stuff now than we would have had in 2019 because of that experience. And now we're moving back towards consumerism and maximalism. And so when you get to, 2060, we'll be back to the 80s again.
Oh my God. And they say it's an 80-year cycle?
It's an 80-year cycle. Yeah,
That's
this is
so
in the book
interesting.
Generations by Neil Howe and William Strauss.
Huh.
There's a cycle for everything. It's really, really cool. They talk
Huh.
about all the generations and how there are 4 different generations, 2 dominant and 2 recessive. So I'm a Gen Xer. I'm in the recessive
Right.
generation.
Right.
We're between the dominant baby boomer and millennial.
Right.
Sometimes, annoyingly, they don't even mention the Gen X when they're talking about generations.
Wow.
We are so small. We are so small. We were only the largest population in the workforce for 3.5 years. That's how
Wow.
small our generation is.
Wow.
Mhm.
Interesting. Is that
So,
true only in capitalist countries or is it true across the world?
hmm, this is a US based book,
Oh,
and it
US.
really talks, yeah, and it really talks about like one of the things they say is certain generations don't have presidents. So if you look at who's running for president, like we still have a baby boomer, and I'm not sure how old Kamala Harris is,
59.
but
So she would be Gen X.
59.
Wouldn't she be Gen X?
She is
She's
the
still
youngest baby boomer.
youngest baby
Yes.
boomer? 59
Youngest
is
baby
still?
boomers. Yep. Yep.
Huh.
She must have been born in
She's on the edge though. She's
mm-hmm, because my
on
husband's
the bubble.
57 and he's the oldest Gen Xer. We likely will not have a Gen X president. It'll go to millennials next. And that's
Holy
just, out of this
moly.
book. Yeah, it's
Wow.
just, there's cycles for everything. So
Yeah, yeah,
now
yeah.
for if you're over 50 and you're looking at downsizing, and I'm thinking about
Yes.
this myself. We've been married 30 years next year. We've lived in our house 28 years, before kids, raising kids. Now my daughter lives there with her grandchild, and we've never moved. And I was thinking, we have a lot of our parents, et cetera, live in houses that have a first floor master. We do not have a first floor master. And I'm 52. And I was like, okay, well, how much longer am I going to live in this house? Because there is no more first floor master. And so I'm doing the mental math. And I'm like, okay, well, I can live here till 70, 75, because I look at my family members who are 75 and they're still doing stairs. Like I'm making those kind of calculations. It's so expensive to move. You can
Yes.
downsize in
Let
your
me tell
actual
you.
house without
Yeah.
actually moving,
Oh,
or make
interesting.
modifications. Like I just renovated our complete basement for my daughter, put a second washer dryer down there, upgraded the electrical in our house, made everything in a kitchen except for a stove because it's just too much of a fire hazard for me. It's a walkout basement. I think we put maybe $35,000 into it. It's the best thing I've ever done. She literally has her own like apartment. I could never have moved her into an apartment. I did the math and I was like, within 1 year, I'm cash flow positive on this investment as opposed to getting her an apartment.
And then
And
you'll
then I
stay
don't
in
have to
this,
pay.
you'll age in place in the house with your daughter
Yeah.
there.
Well,
This
yeah,
is what's
18 years. Yeah.
causing the housing crisis. Do you know that? That's what's causing the housing crisis is that our generation and below, I'm older than you, but and below are not moving out of their houses.
Uh,
And they're not going to the next generation, which is why the millennials don't feel that they can afford a house or find a house. And
but I'm
because
saving my daughter from taking a house because she's staying with us.
right, but that this is overall at
Mm.
this point, the baby boomers would be moving out of their houses because of aging in place, because of all these other techniques. They're not leave the big houses are all still being held by baby boomers, and it should have turned over by now, and it has
But if
not.
you think about it, the oldest baby boomer is only 76 years old.
A lot of
So,
people would be out of those houses and downsized, and they're not downsizing. Apparently,
so
this
I
is just
think
the research I've read.
So when I think about my family of origin, and it was at 80 when they would move into a retirement community. First of all,
Right,
we don't have enough retirement communities for
right,
baby boomers to move into. But baby boomers are not as old as you think they are. It's the silent generation that's actually moving into those. And we're living so much longer than we ever have, which is also
correct,
part of the,
correct,
in the past, people would pass away in their 70s and early 80s. But now people
correct.
are actually moving into these retirement facilities in their 80s and 90s, and they are aging in place longer. But they're also doing like we're doing, which is multi-generational living, which is combining 2 or 3 generations into one household, which is helping a little bit. The problem is we just don't have enough houses. I think
Right.
people don't realize how young baby boomers are. And a lot of the problems that we're attributing to the generation of baby boomers, they haven't even touched the surface yet. Somebody was talking to me and they said one of my podcast episodes should be "We're screwed" because when baby boomers actually do start moving into all of these things that we're talking about are already maxed out, it will be the tsunami that will never end, and we will not be able to figure out how to sustain it. Like, so for example, I've settled my father's estate. I have now done the math. I will settle 5 estates because my husband and I are both the oldest, and both of our parents got divorced. And some of our siblings never got married. And
Oh,
that's just
wow.
the ones we know that we are the executor of. We could settle 8 or 9 because we don't know who's
Holy
listed. Those are the
moly.
ones. Yeah, you haven't done them. And Gen X screwed because we're a small generation. So our baby boomer parents only had 1 or 2 of us. And then the millennials have a lot. So if you're in Gen X, you're gonna settle a ridiculous amount of estates, and it takes a long time to
Interesting.
do that. And yeah, the baby boomers have not even started really even moving into retirement, passing away. Like it's not even started.
Ooh, okay. So
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
doom and gloom, let's
Sorry.
talk. That's all right. That's all right. Let's talk a little bit about, the psychology of decluttering and organizing. We know that there's psychological benefits. We know that it affects how you do your work, how you can think, how you can move forward. Covey Club is all about reinvention and about moving
Yes.
yourself forward. Talk a little bit, since you know the research
Hmm.
on decluttering. What are the things that you can do easily and quickly that will impact your well-being, your point of view, your sense of possibility, if you have any kind of depressive qualities, things like that?
So none of what you talked about, I'm an expert in.
Okay.
So
But
I'm
you
going to
must have
pivot you
run
to
into the
something different.
research. Yeah.
A little bit. I think that there is a problem in the research in that it is so decluttering focused, because
Ah,
decluttering, when you declutter, you get rid of excess. If you only know how to declutter, then when you have a problem again, you go back to decluttering and you start getting rid of things you actually want because you don't know how to get organized. Organization is a completely different skill set. Like I
oh, that's
mentioned,
interesting.
sometimes
I
you need to
love it.
add things when you are organizing, like a higher quality or replacing things versus just getting rid of. So you're thinking of the first step, which is getting rid of, and then we like to jump to increasing productivity and planning. The middle step is organization. Organization is where everything is learned. There is literally no research on this whatsoever. There's none.
Really?
Yeah. And what I believe to be the problem is we're decluttering and then we're trying to increase productivity, especially digitally. Like I need a new app or I need to do something digitally. Organization always happens in analog, always. And then you can digitize for productivity, and digitization is individualized. But true organization in analog form can be universal for everyone in a household or everyone in a certain space. But once you move it to digital, it's done in a certain way. Just think about in your company how your Dropbox is organized or your Google Drive is organized. Like
Right.
everyone has a different way they want to find that or organize that.
Right.
And if you don't have somebody in the company that has created a structure and taught everyone, and I have not succeeded in this in my company, it's really hard. And once it's digital, it's invisible and you don't even know if it's there or not or which version or whatever. But if it's physically on paper, it's much easier to know. And also this physical on paper thing, I really keep doubling down on this because like I was just at a doctor the other day and they were looking at one of my kids' charts and they were like, "Oh, it only goes back to 2011 and we needed something from 2004." And I was like, "Don't worry. I have a printed out copy at home." So these digital systems are not always all they're cracked up to be. And so we really need to, the overwhelm, I believe, the research I'm
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah.
is that the cognitive overwhelm is coming from the fact that we are using our brains as the computer to run a lot of things. And people have to access our brain by asking us questions and having us make decisions, as opposed to being able to externally find that information. So, like, if you need your birth certificate, do you know where it is or do you ask somebody where it is? And if you know where it is, you probably know where all of the birth certificates in your family are, and the other people don't know where they are. And so then you become the bottleneck for the operational system in your home. And I want us to really, you talked about how at the end we're going to talk about PhD level organization
Right.
tips. Decluttering is like the quick win kindergarten version. If you want to
Ah,
really become organized, you need to create operational systems at home like we have in the government, in schools, at work, in media. Everyone has operational systems except for households. And households are where you're going to live for your entire life from birth until passing. And then someone will settle your estate. Like it's the longest thing that you will be in. And there are no operational systems. Everyone leaves their childhood home of origin and then starts from scratch. And they start with decluttering. No. You are the
Ah.
CEO, COO, and CFO of your household, and you need systems to run all of those things.
So can you give us like just a quick, because we're almost at the end here, but
I
like a
know.
quick look at what you're talking about so people understand. I'm just starting to understand the difference.
Yes. Okay. So if we're talking about physical spaces, let's talk about your closet. You know how to declutter your closet. So
Right.
how would you organize and increase your closet for productivity? Organizing your closet is recognizing that you're in a new phase of life and that you actually want to have higher quality jeans. And you'd like to have two different styles and two of each. And so you go and you buy those and you put those in your closet. One of the things I've done in my closet is I have all of my navy blue on one side and my black on the other, so that when I'm in there in the morning, I know I'm grabbing black or blue plants. I don't have to like try to look at each one. That's increasing productivity. And just having what you want when you want at the level that you want it versus just decluttering. When I get ready in the morning, you might have a lot of samples of things or different, scents of deodorant and all this different stuff. You wear the same stuff every day. Just get rid of everything you don't have. Organize what you do have in like a container that you pull out, take everything out, put it all on, put it back in. You could be listening to a podcast. You didn't miss your deodorant because it was all back in the bin. And then you have a double or triple of everything in reserve. So when you run out, you literally just throw it away, put the new one in, add it to the shopping list. Like that is productivity in your bathroom. And when you organize your bathroom, bedroom, and closet that way, so where it's that organized, 50% of your life is organized. You go to bed organized, you wake up organized and productive. It's not just about decluttering.
Yeah, that's what I say to people who move. Like the biggest issue is systems. I guess I call it systems,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is where did I put the car keys every day so I know where they are. So I'm not hunting in the morning trying to figure out where I left them last night. It's all this sort of where are the shoes? Where are all that stuff? I don't know. I call it systematizing. Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
So, yes. And physical houses are easy to systematize. Here's the thing.
Right.
Then you move to paper and information management, and there is no system. I wrote the
Right.
book called The
Correct.
Paper Solution, and professional organizers implement my system because file folders and file cabinets are not able to be evacuated in a hurricane or a fire, and they don't help you take information to the lawyer or the doctor, whoever you need in order to support what you're doing. So information management is organizing all of your paper. The Sunday basket is a weekly routine where you delay all your decision makings until Sunday, and then you make them all at once. So you make the best decisions for your time and your money by making only decisions once a week. And then I do a 3 time a year planning for home where you plan the next 120 days. So we just planned September through December, and then we'll meet again the end of December. We'll plan January until April, and then we'll meet in May and we'll plan our entire summer. And you really start to think about, okay, what supply chain do I need? What decisions am I going to make as the CEO of this household? What projects are we actually going to green light and do, just like you would in business? So you're not just always working and at the end of the day have no idea what you did. Like we're always going to be working anyway. We should be making progress towards our goals, just like you would in business, because in 2022, the US Census said that 68% of the US GDP is household spending. We are the largest small business in the world. American
Correct.
household consumers are the largest small business in the United States, in the largest
Correct.
business in the world. Like how we spend our money, how we make our decisions, how we set goals at home. And we're not doing, there's no system for this. So everyone has to figure this out on their own. That's just crazy. So I want to create operational systems like they did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. There were no white collar workers. There was no operational systems inside of businesses after World War II was over. That was created through industrial organization, psychologists. That's what I want to do for households. I want to create the operational systems so you can make your own. You can make any modifications you want, just like you would as any business owner. But at least you're starting with a playbook. We don't even have a playbook.
So interesting. Never thought about it like that. I love it. I love that. So talk a little bit, just because I think it's so interesting. What is the Sunday basket? I saw that on your site. I thought that was interesting. I think
So the
my
Sunday
husband
basket,
needs it.
Okay, great. Yeah. It's not revolutionary. Like if you're productive, you probably have a system like this. You just had to create it from scratch. It's literally like a box that's behind me. If you're watching the video, it's a box where you write down anything that you need to do, but you don't have to do it right now. Any mail that comes in, any DMs, whatever, go in the box, and then you plan out your week on Sunday. So, for example, the best example I have is you're driving into your driveway, you need to change the laundry, you need to start dinner, you stop and you get the mail. You're looking through the mail and you're like, oh, this is interesting. And you start processing the mail. You walk in, you make dinner, you go to bed. You forgot to change the laundry. We are always running a plan. We always know what we're doing next, but real life interrupts our plan. And the Sunday basket gives you a way to defer, but still check any actionables. So in my instance, I walk in, I just throw all the mail in the Sunday basket. It all leads to
Oh,
Sunday. I
interesting.
don't even flip through it. And then I don't forget to change the laundry and I get started on the dinner. And you end up freeing up about 5 hours per week because you're not making decisions in the moment. You're training yourself. If it can wait till Sunday, it must wait till Sunday because you already had a plan for today.
Yeah. It's the whole, yes, every time you switch your attention, you lose time,
Yes.
you lose, yeah, concentration. So
Yes.
as we're coming to a close here, what are 3 pointers you might give somebody who is thinking of either reinventing themselves or reinventing their household, and following what you did? What are kind of, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it would be interesting if you can talk about your business and sort of how you made it into a business out of something that has not been a business. Cause I think there are a lot of women out there, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they're sick of corporate life. They've done it. They've been a big high powered lawyer. They're done with it and they're looking for new ideas. A lot of women say to me, I just don't know what I want to do next. I want to do something. Are there any sort of master level 3 tips or tricks about how to find that thing that you love and turn it into a business?
Yeah, I think if I look back on almost every single business that has ever been started that ends up employing people, maybe not solopreneurs, but anything that ends up employing people, it almost always starts out as a service business first. So I started out as an in-home professional organizer. I started at $40 an hour. Eventually, I charged $75 an hour. So I was able to replace my teacher's salary within a year. And then I used that money as I grew a team to actually organize at those rates to pay for the blog, to pay for everything. So the first 3 years was just getting in there and actually being with people in different homes and realizing, oh, wow, when I organize an 8-year-old or an 80-year-old in the same exact kind of house, it's completely different. How do I know how to do that? How could I teach that online? How could I do that in a podcast? How, you don't know that until you actually do it in real life. So if you want to leave corporate and do something else, what do you like doing? What would you like to do? And wouldn't even mind doing it if you weren't paid, charge for it, but do it. And once you get in there, like in professional organization, I looked around and no one lasts in in-home professional organization more than 5 years because it's so physically taxing. Like
To go to other people's
yeah,
houses. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I get it.
They either move on to corporate consulting or something like that. They're not doing the in-home organizing more than 5 years. I mean,
It's
it's pretty
exhausting.
rare. Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's why I added on paper because I knew I could do that much, much longer. But then I added on the other components. So that's how I would have you get started. What is your talent that you can charge a high enough dollar per hour rate for that you could bring in the money so that you could figure it out while you're doing it? And that's what organization does. Like as you're transitioning from one thing to the next, as you're reinventing yourself, you totally purge your closet. You completely redo your closet. You redo your morning routine. You redo what's in your storage room. And that is the process of moving from, one phase of life to the next. And then the last piece I would leave with you, if this interests you, is to really start thinking about your job as a household manager as a job. So one of the things that I am working on defining in academia is this idea of self-care. And we have many definitions of what self-care is. My definition of self-care is the ability to care for yourself. And that means caring for your physical needs, your environmental needs, your hobby needs, your leisure needs, your intellectual pursuits. And I got that definition because if you think of childcare from 0 to 18, or elder care when people as they get older rely on care from someone else, let's say 80 plus, when they go into a retirement home, or if you have a child, you're taking care of their physical needs, of course, but you're also taking care of their educational needs, intellectual stimulation, and leisure needs. And so when you have self-care from 18 to the age of 80, you fall into self-care. You have to be responsible for that and start looking at that as a CEO, COO, and CFO. So, as a CEO of your household, however many people are in there, you would never have children or elders under your care that you would not give them intellectual stimulation or leisure activities. Yet we ourselves deprive ourselves from
We're
the
the
18 to
worst.
80
Oh
of
my
those because we're
God.
like, oh, no, 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 we don't have the money for that.
No, this is
Start to
my
do that.
problem, Lisa. Women
Yeah.
don't invest in themselves. They'll
But
invest
it's
in
that
everybody
CEO.
else.
A CEO should look at everyone in the household, divide the resources equally for the utmost benefit of the entire organization. A COO then will make sure that operationally you have all the supplies and your supply chain for your household in order to meet those expectations. And the CFO will run the numbers. So start really elevating your role as the household manager that you are versus, a lot of the common conversations of like men should do more, or we should divide it. Like, no, like I love my company. I love everybody who works in my company, but I'm the CEO. Like I make the decisions, I set the direction, and then the team supports that vision in which I create. And so I don't feel put upon in my business. I don't feel put upon at home that I'm the household manager because that's the role that I've
You
chosen and that
delegate
I'm good at. I'm good
and
at
you
it.
delegate.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lisa, thank you so much. Oh my God, it's great. I love your whole different perspective on this. I think it's
Thank you.
fabulous. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your time. So thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope this was helpful. I hope you picked up some tips and tricks. I hope that you got some insights into what your issues are with organizing and moving yourself forward. If this was helpful to you, I hope that you'll follow the podcast, give us a review, give us some stars. That helps other people in need of reinvention help to find us. And if you are serious about your reinvention, mosey on over to Covey Club and join the club. We are women like myself who are highly accomplished, but who like to share in the abundance of turning the table onto the next thing that we're going to do. And we know it's hard, but we like to do it together. And there's no reason why we can't help you get to where you're going because other people have helped us get to where we're going. And let's share the love and share the practice. So we will see you next time. And hopefully, we'll see you over at CoveyClub.com. Take care.